Person. Gam avisya chabutani darayam yaham ojasa Ushnami chosadi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha. So, do you chant the word for word also? 13. So we can chant Hare Krishna. Yes, chant. Gama Visya Chavutani Darayam Yaham Ojasa Ushnami Chosadi Sava Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha Gama Visya Chavutani Darayam Yaham Ojasa Pushnami Chosadi Savaha Sama Bhutva Rasatmaka. Anyone else? Ladies? Gam, the planets. Avisya, entering. Cha, also. Bhutani, the living entities. Darayami, sustain. Aham, I. Ojasa, by my energy. Ushnami, am nourishing. Cha, and. Oshodi, vegetables. Sarvaha, all. Soma, the moon. Bhutva, becoming. Rasa Atmaka, supplying the juice. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Purport. It is understood that all the planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord. The Lord enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. That is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. It is said there that one plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, enters into the planets, the universe, the living entity, and even into the atom. So due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water. But when the living spark is out of the body and the body is dead, the body sinks. Of course, when it is decomposed, it floats just like straw and other things. But as soon as the man is dead, he at once sinks in the water. Similarly, all these planets are floating in space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there is no possibility of the dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. Similarly, these planets which are floating in the air are actually held in the fist of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. By his strength and energy, all moving and non-moving things stay in their place. It is said in the Vedic hymns that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. Were it not for him, all the planets would scatter like dust in the air and perish. Similarly, it is due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to the moon's influence, the vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word Rasatmaka is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the energy of by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. Translation again. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So, by now everyone has heard how the moon nourishes vegetables and also controls the cycles of growth, which is why the calendar of the moon is so important to farmers, because they plant their crops according to the different phases, knowing which crops grow better in which phases, what circumstances. So this is a science that is not very well known. Most people now have chosen to completely ignore it because they've adapted to the use of artificial growth enhancements, different types of fertilizers, different types of controlled growing conditions like hothouses or hydroponic water-based nutrient systems. But in this way, they're all missing the point that without the moon, then that succulence is all artificial. They might as well label it flavor artificial. Even though they haven't added anything specifically, if they're growing it by the hothouse, which never sees the moon necessarily, sometimes they have glass, but many times they're grown indoors. And these plants neither see the sun nor the moon. They only see the artificial light, electricity. And then they balance it. They have something called, they have these grow lamps. Very popular. Because they can control the conditions, the humidity, the rain, the water, the pests, no insects. They think that they're so smart. But they're missing the main ingredient, which is, what does the moon provide? Succulence is not simply the taste, because we see there are so many artificial taste enhancements. Every time you pick up a package, it says artificial flavor, artificial this, artificial that. But the moon is giving much, much more. So to eat those vegetables, which are actually grown according to the season, according to the cycle, and getting the full exposure to the moon, those can nourish the body. Otherwise, so many people are eating so many things, but nobody's living a long, happy life. Everybody's dying. Older generations that were eating these things, they're enjoying the effects of having some duration, extra duration of life. But those of us who have been raised on artificial, we don't expect to live very long. You can expect all you like, but the fact is that we may not live very long. So we have to take care that we understand that just like that one particular aspect, such a small thing, and it is insignificant in relationship to understanding the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Even a simple farmer, he knows this. But he may not grasp the essence of Bhagavad Gita. To know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to understand how, as we see in this chapter, that tree which descends with its roots upwards and its branches down, and the illusion and all the various sub-branches which form the different pious activities. And these are simply entanglements. In the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada comments that one who is poor in devotional service is always in need of material benefits, material aspirations. He's constantly seeking. And this is a clear indication that someone who he can appear to be very pious. We've seen so many people. They come to the temple. They're very nicely dressed. They're wearing tilak. They're wearing anything. But they're completely absorbed in material affairs. They don't have the slightest desire to surrender to Krishna, which is the goal of the Vedas. So we have to be very, very careful. Prabhupada said one infects. I was listening to one lecture Prabhupada was giving in Vrindavan in 1975. He was lecturing extensively from 6th canto. So he was speaking on that whole incident surrounding Ajamil. How he was a very pious Brahmana, raised in a Brahmin family, attending the Gurukula, married to a very chaste wife. Everything was there. But one day when he went out and he saw the Sudra and the Sudrani in this embrace of passion, he became completely contaminated. And Prabhupada commented that we infect the modes of nature even by our eyes. Even by our eyes, just by seeing. Which is why so many people, they're so happy to have internet. But the internet is a disaster. It is something which is rapidly accelerating Kali Yuga because it gives you unlimited access to the most degraded aspects of the material modes of nature. I right at your fingertips. You don't have to be accidentally walking in the woods and come across a Sudra and Sudrani. You can simply press a button, and as many Sudra and Sudrani as you like, they're right there. And simply by your eyes, you'll be instantly contaminated. Instantly and sometimes irrevocably. They catch it, it's like a disease. They cannot stop. It's an addiction. So one has to be very careful to guard against this type. He has to take the vaccination, the inoculation. He has to chant every single day very sincerely. Not by some, to commit by being inattentive while chanting the holy names. So this is our key to success in spiritual life. That one does not neglect even these small aspects. We think, oh, there's so many things what to do. We used to call in the old days the International Society for Rules and Regulations. That was the joke in the Brahmacharya ashram. International Society for Rules and Regulations. Because when you're new, older devotees in those days were very, very keen to make sure that everyone, oh, Prabhupada said you can't do that. And oh, okay. That's a lesson to be learned. But there were so many. Every time you turned around, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, don't do this, don't touch your face, don't touch your hair, don't do anything. So that's okay. But it was a challenge. It was very interesting, to say the least. But we survived. And we thrived, actually. Because it helps to elevate the consciousness. We don't understand, but it is, you're always remembering Krishna in this way. Through all these little things. Because it's always in your head, oh, Prabhupada said we should not do this. Prabhupada said, one time I was in the temple room, and deities were open, but it was in the middle of the afternoon. Many of the devotees, I was a new devotee, and I was the handyman. It means whatever was broken, I would fix. Because I had some background in repair. I was a little older. When I joined, I was 23 years old. So Prabhupada was in the temple, not in the temple at the moment, but he was there at the New York temple. This was the temple on Henry Street, Brooklyn Temple. This was the third temple. There was 26 Second Avenue, 61 Second Avenue, and then 489 Henry Street. So that temple was a very nice temple. And I was up on this ladder. We didn't have, somehow or other, we didn't have always the best equipment. And this ladder must have been 100 years old, probably came with the house. But it was tall because the ceiling was very high, maybe 14 feet tall, 12 feet tall. And so the light bulb, one of the, the temple president asked me, the light bulbs are, please change them. Because whenever Prabhupada's there, you rush, everything has to be fixed. For days before Prabhupada would come, we would be in a mad rush because all the rest of the year we're on Sankirtan all day, every day. Nobody has time to do these little things. But then when Prabhupada's coming, then everybody says, oh, this window is broken, needs to be fixed, and this is broken, needs to be fixed. Because Prabhupada sees everything. He could see every little thing. As soon as he would walk in, he would see whatever was broken. And then it's embarrassing. So I was changing the light bulb, and I heard the front door, which is, and when in that temple, when you would come in the front door, as soon as you come in the front door, the temple room was on the left, immediately on the left. So the front door opened, I could hear it, and I'm on the top of the ladder, and I just look down, and I see that Pancharatna, who was our vice president at the time, he walks through, and then right behind him, Srila Prabhupada's there, and I can't see Prabhupada's head because the door is there, and I'm here, and I see the cane, I see Prabhupada's cane. And Prabhupada looks in, because the deities are open, like this, and he goes to his room. So I pay my obeisances from the top of the ladder, and I continue to do my work. And then Pancharatna, maybe 1 minute later, he comes running back to the temple, and he says, and I'm dressed in what we used to call work clothes. We didn't have anything in those days. All clothes, every devotee had 2 dhotis, 2 kurtas. And even those, sometimes they weren't actually yours, because all the laundry was done by one devotee, Srila Das, and I would assist sometimes. And when the laundry was finished, they would put on shelves in one room. And if you didn't get there in time, if you were late or a little later, because everyone was at Mangalartik, your dhoti and kurta may not be there because someone else took it, because his wasn't there. It was a cascading thing. So you had to get there like this. Because we had a small locker, because no one had anything. So same thing for work clothes. For work clothes, we also, we would have, they call merge. Merge means everything that people come when you join the temple, you give to the temple, and it goes all onto one bin. So all karmic clothes, anything you needed for Sankirtan. That's why in the old days they used to make fun of devotees because nothing ever matched. No 2 socks the same. So everyone went out like this on Sankirtan. No one had anything matching. So I was wearing these pants, very, just, nobody cared. It was just for being in the temple because to do the work, you didn't wear a dhoti for cleaning the floors and anything like that. You wore this work clothes. So Pancharatna says, Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada said, if you're in the temple and you're shaved up, and all these 3 things, you're in the temple room, you're shaved, and the deities are open, you should be wearing a dhoti. I said, oh. And I thought how to explain that this ladder is 100 years old. Even being on this ladder 14 feet up in these clothes is difficult. To keep balance, to hold on, to reach up and to unscrew the bulb. He said, then in the dhoti, because I'm a new devotee, how to manage everything so you don't kill yourself. So, but it was Prabhupada's order, so I went up to the laundry room, I got a dhoti, and I put it on, and I struggled back up the ladder because it was Prabhupada's instructions. So all these little things were there, and you would know. If you're shaved, if you're in the temple room, if the deities are open, you must be wearing a dhoti. Little things. But we learn and we remember Krishna by that. So there's, in similar ways, we don't always associate certain things, like how here in this verse, the moon is the life of the vegetables, and no material person understands this. They only know that it controls the tides, and that to some extent it controls the growth cycles. But the real connection, that this is where, through the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his eye, the moon, the satellites, that He is nourishing us. He is giving us everything we need, but still we don't take it. Even though it is free, we make something artificial, put some chemicals in water and grow some plant, and everything is perfect. It looks just perfect. But just like everything else, it's a reflection of the reality. It is not a real tomato. It is just an illusion because it has none of the benefit, has none of the nutrition. So we're living in illusion and we're eating illusion. So we have to be very, very discriminatory in all things, where now there's some push that everyone should eat organic. But even eating organic, nothing is organic until it is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even if you're eating the purest vegetable, even grown under the moon, if it's not offered, still you're not getting the full benefit. You're getting the benefits for the body, but not for the soul. And ultimately, we have to feed the soul. This is the main thing. How to nourish the soul. So this is how we nourish the soul in the association devotees. But we have to be careful that we don't take it for granted, that we're simply on some superficial social level, that we must always be vigilant, that how to take care. Everyone has heard the analogy of a wolf in sheep's clothing. No? That in America or in other countries, they use this term, that a person who makes a disguise. So the sheep are very simple animals, but sometimes a person, the animal, the wolf, he cannot go inside because he is a wolf. So they say that the wolf, he can disguise himself as a sheep. And in this way he infiltrates. So they call wolf in sheep's clothing. So when you have an infiltrator, someone who is pretending to be something he is not, that is called a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that we have to be careful to guard, that for friendship especially. And we know from the Nectar of Instruction, one should have his friends not less than himself, equal level. And he should take the association of the advanced souls. And he should give his association to his subordinates. Give them benediction, give them whatever they require. But one has to also know, so who is on this level? We understand that there's a certain exchange. This dadati purtigrinati guyamakachi prachiti. We're exchanging these. So these exchanges are not simply material things. I'm not giving you some, I don't walk up to my friend and say, here's a dhoti, this is insignificant. But, oh Prabhu, I was reading Gita today, and Prabhupada said in the purport, or I was listening to Srila Prabhupada. He gave one lecture in Vrindavan. Such nice, he was saying like this. So then that is association, and that is friendship. That this tushanti cha ramanti cha, that this exchange. Otherwise, if we're saying, oh Prabhu, hey, I know where you can get the best exchange rate in Loy Bazaar. That is not necessarily some spiritual thing. You can change all your number 2 money. We don't want this type of association. Simply dollars, cents. So many devotees have taken to this dollars and cents, pounds, shillings, pence. And it becomes very problematic because they cannot think of anything else. They're fully absorbed in material life. And they have previously surrendered and they've taken initiation, but now what has become of them? What have they done with it? What will happen to them? Are their friends telling them, Prabhu, why are you spending so much time like this? All you think about is money, money, money. Why? What happened to your vow? What happened to your surrender? So that is a friend who can tell you that directly. And We may not think that this is my friend, but that is your best friend. Because he's concerned about your ultimate benefit, your real welfare. He's not just trying to become your friend because maybe he'll get a few crumbs, some charity from you. You see this? What do they call those people? Chumchas. They hang around and they think, oh, this person will give me something. But we don't want to be like that. We are Krishna's servants. We are his dogs. That is why we wear this Kunti Mala. This is what to remember, to remind us. Who is my master? I have only one master. I don't have two masters. So I don't want to give everyone an opportunity to ask some questions. We could speak forever on these topics. Bhagavad Gita is such a nectar. But the important point is we see that we have to be careful in our understanding that just like no one can see the interaction between the moon and the vegetable. What do you see? It cannot be measured. The scientists cannot quantify it. But they understand it. That somehow the moon, they say, oh, by gravitation. But by gravitation, you do not get succulents. You do not get, by gravitation, they can explain the tides somewhat. And they think that by gravitation, the Earth's gravity, that they can explain the growing cycle. Oh, in this gravity, this plant grows bigger. They're guessing. They're guessing, but that's okay. By observation over hundreds and thousands of years, they have noted that these things don't change. So it is fixed, just like the sun rising. So that measurement they can make. And by observation, they can connect. That when the moon, certain plants planted at this time, thrive better than certain plants planted at a different time. So they, by observation, hypothesis, observation, experimentation, conclusion. Prabhupada used that same. So we also have to apply like that. That we cannot see the connection, but we see with Shastra Chakshus. That is our vision. That we see through the eyes of the Vedas. And we're very careful not to see anything else or to put too much credibility in mundane calculations, which are always changing. The scientists will say one thing now, and then in 10 years it will change. When I was young, we were supposed to have ice age. By the year 2000, everything was supposed to be under freezing cold, ice. They were saying, everyone was predicting. And then in 2000 it came and went, and also the Earth, Y2K, so many things were supposed to happen. Nothing happened. And now to make more politics, now they say, oh, global warming. But this is nothing. This is all another attempt by the scientists to manipulate sentiment for someone's benefit. So that you will think, oh, I have to do like this, I have to do like that. This is no one thinks. Do you think some farmer in West Bengal, he understands? It is hot in the summer, it is cool in the winter. It has always been like this, and sometimes it is slightly different. But they will say he is stupid, he doesn't understand global warming, climate change. Well, what does he need to know? Only foolish people are bewildered by these things because they think that they're over-intelligent. They think, and they're embarrassed if they say, oh, you don't understand, you don't believe? They say, oh, no, I believe. They're embarrassed, they're pushed by peer pressure. You must believe in global warming. But it is all bogus. Krishna is control of everything. Whether it is hot or cold, it is up to him. Everything is by his desire, his will, not a blade of grass, not a cloud, the temperature in the earth's core. Everything is the same by his arrangement. But if he wants, in a second, he can burn everything. That's a different thing. So This is our everything. We hear from Bhagavad Gita, and everything else is background noise. Sometimes you walk into some establishment and television set is on, and in the background some news channel, 24-hour cycle, just on and on and on. And it is all just like noise in the background. It is nothing. If you don't hear it, you don't know it, it is not a big problem. We take care of certain things, you know. We have common sense that if there's some tufan, we have to take preparation, some shelter. Yes, the rain will come. Monsoon is coming. Don't be foolish. Don't keep anything outside. Mayapur now floodwaters are coming, so you have to be careful. Cows cannot go outside because they cannot eat. If they go out, what do? They cannot put their heads underwater to eat the grass. So you have to make arrangements. They have to get green grass cut, brought from someplace else. So you adjust. But this is common sense. One time when devotee, in the beginning, no one understood. We didn't have Tulsi worship initially in the temples till 1972, 3, like that. So then we had to take very good care. Tulsi's a very, she's not just by some material arrangement she's maintained. Everyone was trying to be very careful not to use anything artificial, nothing chemical, nothing this. And when we could first grow Tulsi nicely, it was a miracle. We thought, oh, this is amazing. And to keep her growing nicely. And so one devotee was asking so many questions. How should we, because we had to learn all the mantras, to pluck Tulsi. How should it be done? At what time? Is there a certain time of the day? How should she be taken care? So many small questions. This lady sent Prabhupada long list. Prabhupada tried to answer, very patient, answer each question. But at a certain point, I don't even know if it was the same letter. I think she might have sent another letter. He said, many of these questions which you're asking are common sense. So you should use your common sense. And then he said, and if you don't have any, you should ask someone who does. I wasn't going to say the name. I know who it is. So like this, we have to know, it is not, Prabhupada expected us to read, understand, assimilate by action. One does not get the benefit simply by this theoretical mental appreciation. We could, I love Bhagavad Gita, but do you act on Bhagavad Gita? Do you purposely attempt to bring it into your life and then to give it to others? So that is the real test. That when one has this knowledge, when it has become realized knowledge, then it is incumbent on him to distribute this knowledge. He has to give it. And that is why you see in the old days, and here also, whenever we would have, of course we would go on the street, and many times it is you're on the subway, no one has time. Everyone knows what is a subway. I think maybe they call metro here, underground. That was one of our fields of activity. We would take book bags filled with Back to Godhead magazines or some other small pamphlet. In those days there were not many big books, and we didn't distribute big books, really. But we would distribute hundreds of Back to Godhead magazines and small pamphlet called Reservoir of Pleasure. And so you give out, and with them some prasadam, small. We used to give out lugdus. Not the same as you get in India. It was very special. We made in America. It was the first health food bar with, it was bundi, but also almonds, cashews, apricot, fig, dates, and you would make it very nice, cooked and pressed, and honey, so much honey. And we would, after you get them warm, you cook them in the big pot, and then you cool it and you roll it flat. And then we would cut it, put it in bags, and put what they call mantra card. Has on one side Maha Mantra, chant these names of God and your life will be sublime. And on the other side was direction how to go to the temple. They're very nice. And everyone would get these. We used to distribute in a day thousands upon thousands of these in New York City. And many, many devotees joined that temple. All the devotees who joined them, and we can see how many of these devotees were there at that time, at one time even. But, so, but in the Brahmacharya ashram, at that time I can see who was there. At one point, there was Devamrita Maharaj now, and Harikesh now, Prabhu again. But we had, so many, many brahmacharis from there that went all over the world. But anyway, we have to give the knowledge. You have to find someone every day and speak the philosophy. Don't be content to just know it. You see a guest, you should make sure that the guest is being told, oh, this is your first time? Where are you coming from? Do you have any of Srila Prabhupada's books? This temple, Prabhupada said, is only so that someone comes to see, associate with the devotees, and to follow them. Prabhupada said if they go into the temple and they see our devotees paying their respect, their obey, they also do. They make benefit. That's the only reason this temple is here. It's not for my livelihood. It is not for me to have a comfortable place to live. It is only for the guests. Otherwise, we don't need a temple. It is only here so that people can come and surrender to Krishna. And if they're not surrendering to Krishna, then the temple is not being properly managed. So the Brahmacharya ashram should be overflowing with first-class men, not fifth-class. Prabhupada said, do not keep fifth-class men, because then first-class men will not come. Very strict instruction. He told us you only, not that we pick and choose who is this person, but he specifically requested, I want you to please to first-class gentlemen. He wanted us to preach to the intellectual class as much as possible. Because then real change will come about. So any questions or comments? Should we read the translation again? I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Such a nice shloka. Mother Parvati has a question she didn't even know.
No, I want to. I should have a question. So, I remember you were discussing about having friends in Krishna consciousness. So when I was young, I was a swimmer, but swimmer. But when we were taught to swim, you were given the concept that you should have a buddy system.
Yes.
You don't go swimming alone.
Never.
Because if something should happen, at least you've got a buddy.
That's correct.
Somebody there. So Krishna consciousness is like that. Definitely like that. You never go anywhere without association with devotees.
That's absolutely correct. And we know that practically. Anyone who's we form these bonds when one is a brahmachari or brahmacharini. You're going on Sankirtan together. You're sharing the same austerity, sleeping on the floor. You develop a respect and an appreciation for the character that this person is also, he's sincere, they're sincere, she's sincere. And in that way you have some basis to establish a relationship. That, just like Sandipani Muni and Krishna. How close was that bond? They formed at a young age. But of course Krishna went on, he went to Mathura, Sudama, and then even into Dwarka, and they didn't see each other. But still that bond was there. That when he was so poor, and his wife, of course it's always the wife's fault. She was saying, no, Krishna is your friend, you must go ask him for something. And of course, a devotee never wants to ask Krishna for anything. But because his wife was so, and he felt responsibility, he's a grahasta, so he took that flat rice, tied it in his cloth, and he began to go. There's a long road from Mathura to Dwarka, but he went. And when he came, immediately Krishna embraced him, put him on his own bed, had his queens take care of him, fan him, bring him refreshments. And in this way they talked about the times when together they would go out into the woods and they became lost and they had to spend the night alone in the storm. And then the spiritual master and the ashram boys came and found them after the next day under that circumstance. Who can imagine? And the spiritual master was so appreciative, so grateful for their service that they went out like this. Just because they were all just small boys at this time. So we have this, you get this bond. And that bond can never be broken unless you break it. Just like anything else, if you have a book and you don't take care and the binding becomes broken or you throw it in a dirty place. In the old days we never had Bhagavad Gita like this. It always had cover. We would put cloth. Prabhupada had like this one in the temple in Brooklyn. And it was covered with nice cloth. And as temple commander, once in a year or so, we would change the cloth. And then I took that cloth and that became the cover for my Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita was always kept like this, wrapped in cloth, never just kept. It is our deity. But nowadays, somehow or other, it's just a book. But if you treat Bhagavad Gita as your deity, then that consciousness will never leave you. You'll never be far from Krishna. Very nice. And I had that. Mother Parvati kept my Bhagavad Gita safe for me for 20 years. Because after that cloth, I had it specially bound. Because in the old days, all the Bhagavad Gitas were soft cover, paperback, even the big Macmillan. They didn't have hardbound. That was later, a little later. So you had to, that's why you had to put a cover on to protect it, and then if you had a little extra, you could ask someone for donation. We would send it to a binder, and they would take it completely apart and put it back together and then put a hard cover on it. And so that, last time when I came back, the trunk was kept up. When I was here, I came in 1984 to live. I had been into India many times, but in 1984 I came to complete Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi construction. So in that way, for 6 years we built Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, all the marble that you see from Makrana. So we would go there to secure the marble, to check on the contract, to check on the carving, and then we would bring the truck and then we would put everything up, every single piece, all by hand, every piece lifted up. Didn't have crane, don't have anything. Every piece you see there went up by hand by a chain pulley. We would chain pulley, which could only lift 10 feet. So we would lift a piece to one level and then move it to the next level and then move it to the next level like this. All those pieces, inside and outside. So I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so the inside, when I left in 1990, we couldn't carry everything. I was with my wife and my children. So some trunks were left here. And we were thinking we'll come and we're only thinking we'll be gone for a few months. We thought we would be coming back in a few months, but 20 years. And then when Mataji opened the trunk, most books, simple books, mostly just destroyed. But the Bhagavad Gita was completely intact. Not eaten, not destroyed, just as it was. So that Bhagavad Gita I've had since 1972, approximately. So anyway, some things like that. You take care of Krishna, he will take care of you. There's no doubt. I have never, in my life, I've seen this, practically speaking. Not that you should test Krishna. That is not what we're here for. Oh, Krishna, you don't give me this, I'm gone. No, it's not like that. Kwamarupa used to say sometimes when Lakshmi wasn't coming, he say, Krishna, these are your cows. What can I do? If I cannot feed them, I have to open the gates and they all have to go outside. And then immediately Krishna would send some donation. Some big person would come and like that. But we have to depend on Krishna in that way. I'm 100% surrendered. Not artificially, but for the service, for his service. Not surrender and give me this or surrender and give me that. No, it is ahoitakiya pratiyata. It's completely without any desire, unmotivated, unalloyed, uninterrupted. And fully with all engages, Rishikena, Rishikesh, Sevanam, Bhakti, Uchite, all the senses, not just half the senses. I will give this much to Krishna, this much I keep, like this. No, it doesn't work like that. That is disaster. Disaster waiting to happen. So be very careful. Look carefully around. You'll see those devotees to associate with. It is easy. Don't go for the easy, oh, I can go this way, oh, he's going, oh, we're going to this place and that place. In the old days in Vrindavan, we probably didn't want us to go outside for this Rasiya. Not even so much Rasiya, but Rasalila. You know, during Julan, during this time now, they have all this Rasalila. And Prabhupada said, this is all mundane. These are simply actors. They're not living this life. They do this, and then they take off these costumes and they smoke bidi. They have chai. They do this, so much nonsense. Said it is no need. He didn't want us to do any of these things. He knew. If he could avoid it, he wanted us to avoid it. You know, for some preaching, sometimes you have to go, you know, if that is your service and you are the VIP in charge and some minister comes and he wants to see, oh, okay, you have to take. You have to sit there. That is your service. But for some enjoyment, what is the enjoyment? I can be reading Bhagavad Gita. I can be preaching to a guest. What is my duty? That I should be doing. What is my duty? Not that what is my sense gratification. I should go here for some. Everyone knows that story. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was giving lecture. Actually, I was just coming from Mayapur. We have monsoons now. One big tree at the Saraswat Gaudiya Math, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has his samadhi, came down, but didn't hurt the samadhi, but broke the perimeter wall. Completely smashed it. Took down all the electric lines. One of the reasons I was late coming to see Komarupa, we couldn't get through, the road was blocked. So we're thinking what to do, go back, then you have to take the ferry, try to get, it was such a problem. Mayapur is an island. So he was giving lecture, and you know, in the small temple, and at one side is the Gadi, the Vyasasan, he's giving lecture, and so the Vyasasan is facing the deities, and the pujari, you heard the curtains open. You know, at some point, maybe they were closed. I don't know what time this was, night, day, maybe there was offering. So when the curtains opened, Prabhupada is relating the story. Srila Prabhupada was there. When the curtains opened, one devotee got up from listening to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he went to the front to stand by the deities. So it must have been a short dupati or something, because it finished and he came back after 10 minutes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, oh, so you saw Krishna? I said, yes. Well, what was he wearing? Oh, it was very nice mukut, and this nice bangsi, and this nice colored dress. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, simply I exercise. Simply I exercise. Because what did he say? He said, I saw that Krishna is wearing mukut and flute and some nice dress, but he didn't see anything. He only saw these external things. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, simply I exercise. So don't think just by seeing Nididi that you're seeing Krishna. You are. But is there Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena? What is there? With what eyes are you seeing the deity? Through the eyes of having preached all day long to the fallen conditioned souls and come to see the Lord and beg His mercy and say, I am so fallen, you please just allow me to continue this service, birth after birth. Then he's seeing Krishna. Then he understands that here is my Lord. Not that He is here for my pleasure of my eyes. He is not here for mine. He is seeing you. You are not seeing Him. He is seeing you. Prabhupada said through every sense He's seeing. Through His hands which are holding the flute, through His feet, through His eyes, through His ears. He is seeing everything, everywhere. And accepting also our offerings. So in this way, we have to refine our vision, our appreciation, and not be enamored by the illusion. Every second, every day, our eyes. So do not become infected by seeing. You have to inoculate your eyes by, yes, seeing the beautiful form of the Lord for your purification, to keep Him close in your heart, that when there's temptation, you can turn your eyes in. You have to turn your eyes in. You cannot just let lust drag you down and pull you away. You have to bring everything back. So everyone is worshiping their Lord. Beautiful deity in Srila Prabhupada's room in Mayapur. First deity of Mayapur is Mayapur Chandra. He's clay, straw deity. Not neem, fashion, but so exquisite features. If you go to Srila Prabhupada's room in the Lotus building, you will see Mayapur Chandra in his bedroom. And this deity has to be one of the most beautiful deities in all of ISKCON. And he was worshipped for many years in Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir. And then when they opened Lotus building, he was moved to the altar. So he is the original deity there with small deities, Radha Madhava. And then because he cannot be handled, because he is so delicate. These deities are only made to be used for one festival. And already he's there for almost 40 years. And then they're thrown into the Ganga, like the Durga, Kali deities they make out of straw, cow dung like this, and the wire frame. That is how he is made. But still he's there, effulgent. So beautiful. You can keep him in the core of your heart, and Maya cannot touch you. And when he was getting old, so that was the rest of the story, he was starting to get a little bit, they said, Prabhupada, should we take to the Ganga? And Prabhupada said, no, bring to my room. So he's sitting there since that time, worshipped every day. Very beautiful. Very special deities, very special mercy if you know where to look. You have to want to look, and then you will find. You develop sixth sense, like radar. Who is the person I should associate with? What is the program I should associate with? What is the service? Krishna will guide you. You have to listen. You have to listen. You have to be qualified to listen. So we have to chant every day very nicely. Follow the program. Avoid all the offenses. Follow all the rules and regulations. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Madhuri.
You know something about Panchitattva, it's also for the Mayapur, because it's also very, very beautiful depiction of the
Yes.
So,
Actually, those deities were stolen one time.
yeah, I know because I was doing so in and then it was my pleasure, and before that I restored them, and then I photo, and then this was stolen. Chandrawas came to me and said, Tushi, do you have the photo? I thought, yes.
And then they made new. They're there.
Yeah.
But
So it was very strong that this.
I don't know. But you should come, Mataji, and
Which deities are you talking about?
they're in Prabhupada's bookcase.
Thakur were stolen?
They're Panchatattva in Prabhupada's room. On top of Prabhupada's bookcase, where his books, Srimad Bhagavatam, his reference books, and they keep some display his paraphernalia, which changes. Sometimes they have this cooking utensil, sometimes they have this. On the very top, in a narrow space, now it's behind glass, they have Panchatattva figures, dolls, small size, like this. Very pretty. But nobody takes care so much, Maya. They're behind glass, and anything that's kept like that, it needs to be taken out and cleaned. The cloth new dress should be given, but nobody's done. So maybe you have to come to do.
I was doing it. I might have seen the and then I asked my nieces to tell me, okay, you can talk to somebody.
No, yes, nobody's doing. It's behind glass, nobody's doing. Very sweet, yes.
It's so delicate. When you just
Yes.
unread it, you know, when you see the photo, it's very similar to that one.
Yes, I'll take a photo next time and show, then you can see what needs to be done. Any other questions, comments? No? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai.